Hello and welcome to my sound design tutorial. Let's go ahead and jump right in here. I thought I would choose the film Needlework because this is one of the films that I really enjoyed working on because of the abstract nature of certain parts of it, like the sewing machine in the close up. It's very ominous sounding, very punchy, which is what the director wanted. So he wanted to attach some kind of ominous vibe to this sewing machine, which will affect another character in the film later down in the film. So I thought I would get started. So I'll go ahead and let this play through without any effects on. I got everything off here. Okay, so there you have it. Some smashing sounding sewing machine, and then it cuts off to the female running through the forest. So we'll discuss that as well. So what I'm going to do is just go through all of these layers which create this sound uh, one by one, just so you can hear, and I'll discuss a little bit where it came from and what I did with it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and start it right here. Okay, so gears and cranks. So this is a gear and kind of crank sound effect that you would hear in a warehouse. So I'll solo this out and we'll check it out. Okay. So it sounds like I pitch shifted it down in its original form. I would take this cranking gear sound and go to pitch shift and then slightly pitch it down so it's not so high end sounding. Because when I'm thinking like ominous, I'm thinking deep, dark, growly, angry sounding. So I probably dropped it down a few semitones and then just tested it out. Okay. So next we go to this kind of pulsing looking sound effect. Okay, that's a little hard to hear, so I'm gonna just bring that up a little more. Okay, that sounds like some kind of like drum, industrial kick or industrial snare that I added. Okay, next let's solo this one out. That's bizarre, but it worked. So I'm gonna bring this up just so you can kind of hear it a little better. Okay. All right. So this sounds like some kind of growl, like some large beast growl. And what I did was I I think I pitch shifted it down a little bit and then I duplicated this track and brought it here and then reversed it. There's no reason why I did that. It was just experimental reasons. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's go down to this sound effect here. Again, some kind of industrial punching sound, but it sounds a little more distant. Yeah. Okay, these are definitely like punchy industrial hits. Okay. So these are pretty precise hits. A lot of nudging involved here. I kind of waited till it was like all the way down before it came back up, and then I'll just put a marker and just put hit, for example. So markers for this. I don't know what DAW you're using, but if you can drop markers, it saves a lot of time. Pro Tools, and just duplicate it, Command D, and then just kind of find where the other one hits. So it's kind of tedious, but it helps. Okay, so we have our punching sound effects. And it looks like I have gears written here, but let's see what this is. Okay. So I believe that was similar to this one. I just went to the audio suite and EQ'd out a lot of the low end. For example, uh, just to add another layer of frequency that doesn't exist with this frequency. So I probably cut about half of it out, and then I processed it right there on the track. And you don't want to do that all the time, just certain sound effects. It's helpful. Next sound. Um, it sounds like another punchy sound. A lot of these are going to be similar punchy sounds, uh, just acting as layers. So I probably grabbed this from an industrial kit or from Contact, one of the Damage 2, and then recorded and then added distortion. There's a lot of distortion. And these have different pitches if you listen. Okay, listen to this one. Slightly different than this one. So I try to hit all the frequency ranges, low, mids, and highs, and not everything at the same time. So it's almost like a symphonic cake of sound. Nothing is clashing, nothing is repetitive sounding to the ear. That's even more manipulated. A lot of the times I'll take one of these that I already did and just like drag and drop it down and then just further manipulate it. Okay. For example, I just took this as an example here. Let's say I've got this. Okay, so maybe I want to change that. I like to do a lot of audio suite manipulation here. So maybe I'll choose like a modulation. This is just a generic example. Stereo. And then I'll just do uh, examples here. Maybe I'll just mess. So many different ways I can manipulate this and then add it on. Um, and make sure all the volumes are somewhat different. They're not all the same volume, some quieter than others. So I'll delete that. Okay, so that's basically all of it together. Okay, so let's hear this in context with everything together. Let me unsolo these guys here. Since he's in a massive space here, you might want to use some chamber or some cathedral reverb just to kind of give, but not a whole lot, but just to kind of give a feeling of that echo inside this massive space that he's in. So here I'm going to discuss the little section where she runs through the forest. Let me mute all these tracks real quick. Here we go. Okay, that's all we have is the sewing machine right now. But she runs through the forest here, and we have backgrounds. I have two backgrounds here, um, and then some footsteps, which are pre-recorded Foley footsteps. Sometimes I will record my own footsteps, but in this case, it's a short film, so I don't want to devote uh, tons of time into recording Foley when I've already got some pretty decent Foley recordings of footsteps in a forest environment or walking on leaves, for example, that I already recorded myself. Okay, so it looks like I have two footsteps, kind of footsteps, and then they're just layered on top of each other for each step that she takes. Layers, layers, layers. This is extremely important for sound design. So let's check out just her footsteps and then we'll hear the background. Okay, let me go ahead and mute all this mechanical business here. There we go. There we go. It's really quick, but she runs throughout the film. So, okay. Again, just using nudge and finding out where that impact happens. I would probably start it here before she steps right into it, and then it works itself in perfectly as she's running. And obviously, you don't want it right there because she hasn't stepped down yet, but you want it like a few seconds before she lands. Okay. So let's check out the background. I have like a dusk sound effect. Uh, Not too heavy on the birds, just very subtle. Okay, I'll mute the footsteps. Let's just hear I'll turn it up a little more just so you can hear what's really quick. And then crickets chirping, but not too loud. It is towards the evening time and the insects may come out. Okay, that's just the backgrounds only. And this is everything together. Cool. So that's pretty much it. Just a few things here. And it did the job. Okay. So going back to the sound effects of the sewing machine, the demonic crazy sewing machine chasing this girl in another world. Okay, another thing I want to bring to your attention is why is there a sewing machine in the forest? Okay. Okay, so this is more of that hyper realism. It's like two different worlds we're bouncing in and out of. It sounds very dry. We still wanted the sound of this sewing machine operating in his world, but she can hear it in her world. So this is where time-based effects come into play and some EQing. Okay, it sounds pretty dry by itself. Okay. So basically, the sewing machine is still engaged as he's using it in his world, and in her world, it's more of a hyper realism. She can still hear it, and it's kind of like this doom sound chasing her. Okay, but it's pretty dry because I have no effects or EQ put on it. So I'm going to turn on my EQ, maybe go through it real quick and discuss what I did here. There we go. Okay. Again, messing with frequencies. I don't want everything in the same frequency range. So let's go through here. It looks like I cut off a lot of highs here, about 2K. Cut off even more highs. Pulled up some mids here. Again, more cut on the highs. Uh, Same thing. Maybe I copied and pasted some of these, and I do that sometimes. Yep. And I could even further manipulate this if I wanted to. For the reverbs, I have cathedral and chamber. And again, I use these really subtly. I don't want any massive sounding reverbs. But again, very subtle information being fed to these tracks. I'm going to uh, just engage these, and you'll be able to tell a difference now. Okay, now check it out. A lot different. It's not so in her world, it's kind of outside of her world in an abstract way. Okay. So I have all the reverbs engaged, and before I play it, I wanted to discuss a plugin I like to use a lot. It's through Waves. It's this S1 Imager. I like to use this a lot because you can spread out. If you're not mixing in 5.1 and you just have stereo, you can still make it sound spacious and not so stereo. You can fill the entire spectrum. So for this effect, I'll solo it. Even that, I have a little more spread out in the spectrum. Okay, so let's hear everything together with the reverb coming in and coming out of the both worlds here. Yeah. There you have it. So layers, layers, layers. Um, it's extremely important. A lot of sound design that I hear from people starting out, I can already tell there's not enough layers. Why? Because I made that same mistake. I was told, hey, you need more layers. That concludes this tutorial, and there's a lot more to come in this film. I can discuss music choices that I made and tons of other sound design ideas and tricks. So, hopefully, you pulled something from this, and I will see you soon. Thank you.